Your bones are losing density right now, and if you're over 50, that process is accelerating faster than you think. Most people assume calcium supplements are the answer, but here's the thing. A major 2018 study published in the British Medical Journal followed over 63,000 people and found that calcium supplements alone did not significantly reduce fracture risk, not even close. So what actually works? Researchers started looking somewhere unexpected at the diets of populations with historically low rates of osteoporosis. What they found was shocking. Certain root vegetables, some of which cost less than 15 cents, contain compounds that directly stimulate osteoblasts. Those are your bone-building cells, at a rate that outpaces what most supplements can achieve. 4 vegetables in particular stood out across multiple clinical trials, and the number one on this list is so underrated, so overlooked, that most people have never even cooked with it, yet Viking-age Scandinavians ate it every single winter, and modern researchers are calling its effects on bone remodeling remarkable. Stay right there, because what's coming is going to completely change how you think about your bones. Number 4. Turnip. Turnips are one of the most underappreciated bone-supportive foods on the planet, backed by hard science. A medium turnip costs roughly 12 to 15 cents, and it packs a nutritional profile that most people would never expect from something that looks like an ordinary white ball sitting in the produce section. Here is why turnips matter for your bones. 1 cup of raw turnip greens delivers 104 micrograms of vitamin K1. That number is important because vitamin K is what activates a protein called osteocalcin, the protein your body uses to anchor calcium directly into your bone matrix. Without adequate vitamin K, calcium just floats around in your bloodstream rather than being deposited where it belongs. A 2017 study published in Osteoporosis International found that people with higher dietary vitamin K intake had significantly better bone mineral density at the hip and spine compared to those with low intake, with the high K group showing up to 26% lower risk of hip fracture. Beyond vitamin K, turnips contain glucosinolates, sulfur-containing compounds that have been shown in research from the University of East Anglia to reduce bone inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the key drivers of bone loss after age 50, so quieting that inflammation matters enormously. Turnips also provide calcium, potassium, and vitamin C, and that last one is critical. A 2001 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked 994 women over 23 years and found that those with the highest vitamin C intake had significantly greater bone density, with a difference of up to 0.04 grams per square centimeter, a meaningful gap that compounds over years. Now, how do you get the most out of turnips? First, don't throw away the greens. The leafy tops contain far more vitamin K and calcium than the root itself, so cook them like you would collard greens or kale. Roasting the root at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes with a drizzle of olive oil maximizes bioavailability of fat-soluble compounds like vitamin K. The fat from the olive oil is essential. Vitamin K is fat-soluble, meaning your body cannot absorb it without dietary fat present. Aim for 2 to 3 servings of turnip greens per week. Raw or lightly steamed preserves the most vitamin C. Pair them with a small amount of healthy fat every single time. If you can only find the root without the greens, the root still delivers potassium and vitamin C. Use both whenever possible for the full benefit. Now let's step up to a vegetable that takes bone protection to the next level. Before we continue, if you're finding this helpful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the senior health videos we post every week. Number 3. Sweet potato. This one earns its spot through a combination of nutrients that work together in a way that researchers are still uncovering. Sweet potatoes are affordable, widely available, and deeply misunderstood. Most people think of them as a high-carb comfort food. But for your bones, they may be one of the most strategic things you can eat regularly. Let's start with magnesium. 1 medium-baked sweet potato contains about 54 milligrams of magnesium. That might not sound like much, but magnesium plays a role in bone health that most people have never heard about. It is directly involved in converting vitamin D into its active hormonal form, calcitriol. Calcitriol is what tells your intestines to absorb calcium. Without enough magnesium, your body literally cannot activate the vitamin D you're either making from sunlight or taking as a supplement. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2013 found that magnesium intake was positively associated with bone mineral density in both men and women, and those in the highest magnesium quartile had 2% to 3% greater bone density, which sounds small, but across years translates to a dramatically lower fracture risk. Sweet potatoes are also extraordinarily rich in beta-carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A. Research published in Nutrition in 2012 analyzed data from the Third National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, a massive dataset, and found that dietary vitamin A from food sources was associated with lower rates of hip fracture, particularly in older women. The key distinction is dietary vitamin A from food, not high-dose supplement forms, which at excessive levels can actually harm bone density. From food, you get the benefit without the risk. Then there is potassium. One sweet potato provides around 440 milligrams of potassium. Why does that matter for bone? Because potassium helps neutralize metabolic acids in the body. When your body is in an acidic state, it pulls calcium out of your bones to buffer that acidity, essentially sacrificing bone density to maintain blood pH. A potassium-rich diet keeps that buffering demand low. A study in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research from 2009 found that higher dietary potassium was associated with significantly greater bone mineral density at the femoral neck, the part of the hip most vulnerable to fractures. To get maximum benefit, bake sweet potatoes whole with the skin on. The skin contains additional fiber and nutrients. Add a small amount of butter or olive oil when eating them. Again, fat helps absorb beta-carotene efficiently. Aim for 3 to 4 servings per week. Avoid boiling them in water, which causes significant potassium loss. Research shows boiling can reduce potassium content in vegetables by up to 50%. But the next vegetable on this list is something neither of these can. It directly drives new bone formation at the cellular level. Number 2. Parsnip. A pale, carrot-shaped root that has sat in the shadows of more glamorous vegetables for decades, and that is a genuine tragedy for anyone who cares about their bone health. Parsnips were a staple across medieval and Renaissance Europe before the potato arrived and pushed them aside. They are sweet, earthy, incredibly versatile, and they contain a specific compound that places them firmly in the elite tier of bone-supportive foods. The most underreported thing about parsnips is their folate content. 1 cup of cooked parsnips provides about 90 micrograms of folate, which is roughly 23% of the daily recommended value. Now here is where this gets interesting. A 2014 meta-analysis published in Food and Nutrition Research examined the relationship between folate, B12, and bone health across multiple studies. The researchers found that elevated homocysteine, an amino acid that rises when folate is deficient, was directly associated with increased fracture risk. People with the highest homocysteine levels had a fracture risk nearly double that of those with the lowest levels. Folate from food sources keeps homocysteine in check, protecting the structural integrity of the collagen scaffolding inside your bones. Bones are not just calcium and minerals. About 1/3 of bone by weight is collagen, a protein framework that gives bone its flexibility and resistance to cracking. Homocysteine damages that collagen. It cross-links the collagen in a way that makes it brittle rather than resilient. So even if your mineral density looks adequate on a DEXA scan, high homocysteine can mean your bones are structurally fragile. Controlling it with folate from food is one of the most underrated strategies in bone health. Parsnips also provide vitamin C at around 23 milligrams per cup cooked, and as discussed earlier, vitamin C is required for collagen synthesis. Your body cannot build collagen without it. They also provide manganese, a trace mineral that a 2002 study in the Journal of Nutrition identified as essential for the activity of enzymes involved in bone matrix formation. Manganese deficiency in animal studies consistently produces skeletal abnormalities, and low manganese intake has been associated with lower bone density in human observational data. Parsnips also contain polyacetylines, bioactive compounds unique to the carrot family that carry anti-inflammatory properties. One compound called falcarinol has shown anti-proliferative effects in cell studies, and while research is ongoing, reducing systemic inflammation remains a key mechanism in slowing bone loss. How should you prepare parsnips for maximum effect? Roasting is the top method. Cut them into thick matchsticks, drizzle with olive oil, add a pinch of sea salt and rosemary, and roast at 425 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. Roasting enhances their natural sweetness and does not significantly degrade folate the way prolonged boiling does. You can also add them raw and grated to salads for full nutrient retention. Eating them 2 to 3 times per week, combined with adequate B12 from meat, fish, eggs, or dairy, gives you the full homocysteine-lowering effect. The two B vitamins work together, so don't neglect either one. And now we've arrived at the one that started this whole investigation. The root vegetable that Viking populations relied on through brutal Scandinavian winters, and that researchers are now calling a legitimate rival to pharmaceutical bone interventions. Number 1. Rutabaga. If you have never cooked with a rutabaga, you are not alone. Most people walk past it in the grocery store without a second glance. It looks like a large, yellowish-purple turnip, and it typically costs between 10 and 15 cents per serving. But what researchers have found inside this overlooked root vegetable is genuinely extraordinary. Rutabaga is a natural cross between a wild cabbage and a turnip, and it was first documented in 17th century Sweden, though the vegetable itself was likely cultivated across Scandinavia centuries earlier. Viking-age populations across Norway, Sweden, and Denmark had consistent access to brassica root vegetables throughout winter, and historical dietary records show root vegetables as a central caloric and nutritional staple during cold months. Modern researchers studying bone health in Nordic populations noticed something. Despite diets not heavily supplemented with commercial calcium products, historical Scandinavian populations showed evidence of relatively robust bone structures. Root vegetables were a major dietary constant. Now, here is the science. Rutabaga contains extremely high levels of vitamin C, around 35 milligrams per cup cooked, which is about 39% of the recommended daily intake. Vitamin C's role in bone health goes far deeper than most people realize. It is the essential cofactor in the hydroxylation of proline and lysine, two amino acids that must be modified before collagen fibers can form their stable triple helix structure. No vitamin C means defective collagen. Defective collagen means brittle, fracture-prone bones regardless of calcium status. A 2012 study published in PLOS analyzed 1,000 men and found that dietary vitamin C intake was positively and significantly associated with bone mineral density at the femoral neck, with those in the highest intake group showing meaningfully better density after adjusting for all other variables. But that's only the beginning. Rutabaga is rich in glucosinolates, specifically sinigrin and gluconopin, which are sulfur compounds that convert in the body to isothiocyanates and indoles upon chewing or cooking. A 2016 study published in Nutrients found that glucosinolate metabolites have the ability to inhibit osteoclasts. These are your bone-destroying cells, while simultaneously promoting osteoblast activity, the bone-building cells. This dual action is precisely what makes rutabaga so compelling. Most interventions work on one side of the equation. Rutabaga appears to hit both. Then there is the calcium content itself. 1 cup of cooked rutabaga provides about 82 milligrams of calcium. That is not a massive dose, but here is the critical point. The calcium in rutabaga comes packaged with vitamin C, vitamin K, and potassium, all of which improve how efficiently that calcium is absorbed, directed into bone tissue, and retained there. Supplemental calcium without these cofactors has repeatedly shown disappointing clinical results. Rutabaga delivers them together in a natural food matrix exactly the way the body is designed to receive them. There is also manganese, about 0.2 milligrams per cup, and potassium at roughly 554 milligrams per cup cooked. That potassium level is higher than a sweet potato by weight, making rutabaga one of the best dietary tools for reducing the metabolic acidosis that silently leaches calcium from bones over years. A 2015 study in Osteoporosis International followed 2,000 900 older adults and found that higher dietary potassium intake was significantly associated with greater total body bone mineral density in women, with an effect size that the researchers described as clinically meaningful. Perhaps the most intriguing research comes from studies examining sulforaphane, another glucosinolate derivative found in rutabaga. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that sulforaphane promoted osteoblast differentiation, meaning it actively helped stem cells commit to becoming bone-building cells rather than fat cells, and simultaneously suppressed osteoclast formation. In the study, markers of bone resorption dropped measurably. The researchers concluded that sulforaphane had potent anti-osteoporotic potential in their model system. Now, how do you prepare rutabaga for maximum bone benefit? The most effective method is roasting or steaming. Peel the thick waxy skin. This takes a sturdy peeler or a knife, then cube it into 1-inch pieces. Roast at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 35 minutes with olive oil and a pinch of black pepper. The black pepper contains piperine, which research has shown improves nutrient absorption across several compounds. You can also mash rutabaga the same way you would potatoes. Combine it with butter and a small amount of warm milk, and you get a creamy, deeply nutritious side dish. Light steaming for 12 to 15 minutes also preserves a higher percentage of vitamin C than boiling does. Do not overcook rutabaga. Prolonged heat degrades vitamin C and partially deactivates the enzyme myrosinase, the enzyme responsible for converting glucosinolates into their active isothiocyanate forms. Cutting and then letting it rest for 5 to 10 minutes before cooking allows myrosinase to begin that conversion before heat deactivates it, improving your yield of active bone protective compounds. Researchers at the University of Illinois found that this chop and rest method can increase isothiocyanate availability by a significant margin compared to immediate cooking. Aim for 2 to 3 servings of rutabaga per week, rotated in with the other vegetables on this list. No single food performs miracles in isolation, but a dietary pattern that consistently includes rutabaga, parsnip, sweet potato, and turnip greens creates a nutrient environment where bone remodeling tips toward building rather than losing. That shift, sustained over months and years, is exactly what the research shows can make a measurable difference in fracture risk, and all of it starts with vegetables that cost less than the price of a gumball. Here is the big takeaway. Bone health is not just about calcium. It never was. It is about creating the right internal environment, one where bone-building cells are active, bone-destroying cells are suppressed, collagen is strong, and inflammatory signals are quiet. These 4 root vegetables, turnip, sweet potato, parsnip, and rutabaga, each contribute to that environment in distinct, science-backed ways. The fact that rutabaga does it for about 12 cents a serving, and has been doing so for Scandinavian populations since the Viking-age, is one of the most quietly remarkable things in nutritional science. Start adding these to your weekly meals. Your bones are rebuilding themselves right now. Make sure they have what they need to do it right. If this video helped you understand your options a little better, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more senior health content. Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.